COVID-19 hit the world like an absolute wrecking ball, disrupting life in a disturbingly short period of time, only to plunge us into a collective lockdown that were to last almost 18 months. As we begin to emerge from this global pandemic and work towards the new normal, whatever that really means, it makes me wonder what benefits, if any, we have as a result. Yes, there was devastation and many lost loved ones, which we must never forget. But what about the changes in life that are positives? Communities coming together for those at risk. Yes, just think of the clap for the NHS Heroes. Pushing medical boundaries to create a world-saving vaccine in 18 months. Brilliant. Proof that companies can still function and thrive using working from home practices? Yes, absolutely. It's fair to say that employees have reaped the rewards of working from home, spending time with loved ones, supporting each other with childcare, and establishing a better work-life balance. But what happens when companies begin to go back on their lockdown promises and encourage, or even force, employees back to the office? Many have decided that enough is enough and change is needed. Instigated by about turns of their employers on returning to the office, many are leaving their jobs in search for more fulfilling work or full remote working. With that in mind, the question is, should I be part of this so-called Great Resignation? But before we get into that, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Brendan and I'm a recovering accountant, lifelong learn-it-all and fellow millennial. I help millennials navigate busy lives and make sure that work doesn't suck. If you haven't yet, go on, just push that subscribe button and nudge the bell so it wobbles. That just means you'll get the content the moment it is released. So what is the Great Resignation? I guess the best way to describe it is a sort of workers' revolution. Employees around the world are revolting against companies that refuse to listen to employees and continue to revoke plans established during the pandemic. Many believe companies to be taking advantage of their staff. This is an extreme representation, but captures the essence of the movement well, as thousands of workers have voted with their feet and left their jobs, many without having another role lined up. The reason, you ask? They no longer want to feel like victims. Those making the move are making a powerful, positive, and self-affirming statement. They will no longer be subject to the whims of companies' behaviours, often to the detriment of working practices. Changing jobs has always been a stressful experience, no matter whether you've done it regularly or stayed in a role for double-digit years. But with the disruption of COVID-19 on many working practices around the world, many are using the shake-up to make personal changes, with changing jobs being a key consideration. For many, when the pandemic hit, companies reacted quickly, establishing working from home practices and putting employees' mental health at the forefront of their agendas, which was only a good thing. Employees felt valued, they felt cared for, they felt involved in the situation. However, with the relaxing of the pandemic rules and the opening up of the business world, companies are keen to get employees back to the office. The second largest expense on most companies' balance sheet, real estate, read office space, has been sat idle and empty. Yes, changes have been made, COVID precautions have been implemented and social distancing protocols established, and the upping of cleaning standards commenced. But what's the point of doing this if there are no employees to use the facilities? The problem is employees don't want to go back. They have become accustomed to remote working and the associated benefits. No longer are employees willing to stand in others' armpits on crowded commuter trains. Oh no! No longer are employees willing to be part of presenteeism office cultures. No longer are employees willing to spend on overpriced lunches and train tickets. They are fighting back, and doing so with their feet. Well, more accurately, their resignation letters. You see, the power balance has for years been unfairly weighted in favour of the employer. This has finally been reset to an equilibrium. Employees are now actually being treated as assets. Their opinions count. HR departments and senior executives across the lands have been caught short by this movement and are now scrambling to play catch-up. Fundamentally, there is now much more of an equal footing. As mentioned, this workforce movement is one of the largest seen in recent years and is, or at the very least should be, worrying every single employer. Whilst people are calling it The Great Resignation, Gallup, an American analytics and advisory company based in Washington, D.C., have presented data that shows this movement is not an industry, role, or pay issue. It is a workplace issue. Even before the pandemic, roughly 41% of workers considered quitting their jobs or switching their professions. Should it be any wonder then that the Great Resignation has commenced? It's only natural that people will grasp for a more reasonable alternative when all they've known for so long has essentially been toxic and counterproductive. The Gallup data cites the following as the reasons to why employees are leaving. Number 1, 40% blame burnout. Number 2, 34% state that their company is going through organisational changes. Number 3, 20% counts for the lack of flexibility. Think stating back to the office is mandatory, full-time or preordained days, instances of discrimination and contributions, and ideas not being valued. This is a three-way tie. Number 4 is 19% say that there are insufficient benefits, and number 5, 16% believe their well-being was not supported by the company. I'm sure we can all at times identify with these reasons, but what did Gallup discover about the reasons the job switcher wanted in their new job as influenced by the pandemic? Number 1, 40% states the ability to work remotely according to personal preference. Now that is one I can wholeheartedly get behind. Number 2, 37% want better compensation. Number 3, 31% want better management. Number 4, 29% want a better company reputation. Number 5, 26% want a better work-life balance. And the sixth reason, which I think is worth stating, ties in strongly with number 1, is that 24% of respondents want a flexible work schedule. From these stats, it's not difficult to see how the pandemic has shifted employees' wants and criteria for their work. For those in work, the scrutiny being placed on their employees is growing. And for those looking for work, this is greater scrutiny over how the company has acted during the pandemic and is doing so now. It is also worth noting that before you do any job quitting, you should consider options such as, can I move to a different team or department? Is there a way I can take on more interesting tasks or shift some responsibilities? Is there something my employer could provide? More money, a promotion, more time off? What would give the role more meaning? Given the current labour climate, employees have a stronger card when pressing for change, and if managers don't engage, that might well be all the answer you need. According to the career site Monster, 95% of all workers are currently considering changing jobs, and 92% are willing to switch industries to land a new position. This is further emphasised by Vicky Salami, a Monster career expert, who states, "The pandemic has created an opportunity for so many of us to re-examine our life, our career, our everything. If all this talk about the Great Resignation has caused you to ponder if it is time for you to change, how do you know if it is the right time to leave?" Well, that is indeed a very good question, and one which I have reflected over in creating this video. To help you, I have collated my 8 steps to determine if you should be a part of this movement. Number 1, identify what you want. The most important thing anyone should do is figure out what type of work they want to be doing, and crucially, who they want to be doing it for. This includes the pay. This is a most excellent time for people to be thinking of making a career change, as so many companies are hiring and looking for transferable skills. In what makes this movement different to previous iterations is that the individuals don't necessarily need experience in that specific job. So once you know what you want to do, draw up a list of target companies you want to work for. Make sure you include the type of company, type of job, company size, and revenue. All this will help you narrow your search right from the go. Number 2, set up some alerts. It is a simple act, but one that is easy to forget. By creating job alerts through appropriate websites, you will be notified when a new job is posted. By doing this, you'll see how regularly the job you want comes up. Does it imply a competitive marketplace, or one which is suited to you making the move? Understanding the competitive forces at play and the likelihood of you going up against 1, 10, or 100 other candidates will help you determine if this is the right time to make a change. Now comes the important part. If a job appears that takes your fancy, don't wait to apply. Do it straight away, please. With such a demanding jobs market, vacancies are being filled quicker than ever, and this can mean application periods are closed quickly. Number 3 is around tapping out. So if the Great Resignation has caused you to think long and hard about making a change, what is your rationale for leaving your current role? You will need to ask yourself, what is the driver behind this change? Are you just looking for a quick fix? Number 4, don't mind the gap. If you're going to make the leap, will you mind having a gap on your CV? Gaps in career histories are not a deal breaker like they used to be, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of the impact you will have on a potential new employer. If you do have a gap, just be prepared to answer the questions about why you left your last employer. Positive answers to this would include your desire to focus 100% on a job search, your commitment to making positive change, or your change in personal circumstances. Number 5, show me the money. Making a change is a big deal. This is doubly true if you're changing industry, sector, or career direction. With that in mind, if your search takes longer than expected, do you have a rainy day fund? This is your pot of cash that allows you to find the job you really want. If you don't have any cash coming in for a few months, can you survive? If the answer is no, I would suggest you save at a minimum 3 months worth of outgoings, or ideally 6 months plus. A quick summation of the expenses you incur on a regular basis times the number of months you need gives you a ballpark figure. This is what you need to have ready to deploy. But please don't be surprised if it is larger than you think. Number 6 is sticking to your values. Now, if you are going to make a change, and it's a big one, then make sure it aligns to what is important to you. Over the last few years, I have done significant work on re-establishing my values and making sure everything I do aligns with those. No longer will I do a job that doesn't align to my values. No longer will I submit myself to the Sunday evening blues, and no longer will I do a job where I can't be myself. This, I believe, is the biggest point. Identify what is important to you and stick to it. Number 7 is, what is your vision? Ask yourself these 2 fundamental questions. What is your life vision? And will your change in job, career, direction support that vision? When we want to make a change in our careers, it is vital that we do some planning. Many don't, but this is where you can give yourself an unfair advantage. By asking yourself what you want your life to look like in 10 years from now, this will help you weigh up your decision-making process. Asking yourself questions such as, what will you be doing? Who is in your network? What impact will you be making? What are people saying about you? By having this picture of your life in 10 years' time, you can create the perfect job descriptions that align with what you want. Why not consider what your next 1 or 2 roles will need to look like to ensure you get there? Now, number 8, I think, is the most important, and that is, don't ever settle. As much as you want to escape your current job, don't settle when it comes to your next one. Know your worth heading into an interview. With it being a job seeker's market, you are the seeker, are in as much of a strong position as they are. I learned, as the older I get, the more senior I become, that interviews are a 2-way process. It is a chance for you to sound out the company as much as it is for them to interview you. The company should be trying to attract you, not make you feel small or bombard you with unreasonable questions. When interviewing, make sure you consider, how did you feel? Were the people on the other side of the conversation those you would like to work with? Did you strike up a good rapport? Ultimately, an interview is a process for you to determine if you want to work for the company in question, so don't be afraid to walk away if the answer is no. This comes with knowing what you are worth in the marketplace, not only in financial terms, but also responsibility and flexible for working locations. And there you have it. These 8 steps will help you come to the conclusion as to whether now is the right time to join the Great Resignation. From my point of view, I will never let myself suffer the Sunday evening blues again. I was able to secure a job for a media company back in 2014 where I was able for the first time ever to just be me. This meant I excelled in the role, and it coincided with the banishing of the Sunday evening blues. Not since then have I either allowed the Sunday evening blues to creep back into my life or stayed in a job that has caused me to feel those blues again. I never will it. I believe that life is too short to do a job you don't like, or dare I say hate. Fear is what holds you back, and fear is what stops you from getting the job of your dreams. But if you make a change, good, bad, or indifferent, something will change. If you say no, nothing will change. So don't be scared of having a better life. And that's it. By understanding what is important to you, you can determine if you will be one of the thousands making a positive career change. And if you liked this video, please do check out this video here where I talk about how I quit my job with nothing to go to because I hated the Sunday evening blues. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.